So I'm with Amineh Hoti, author of Gems and Jewels, and the specialist in the diversity of Pakistan, which may be something that surprises the viewers. Now, Amineh, what is the situation at the moment in Pakistan in terms of the pandemic?
Well, thank you, Ed, for giving me this opportunity. The book that I've just finished is on the religions of Pakistan. It's called The Gems and Jewels, and it focuses on about 10 religions of Pakistan. And as you know, Pakistan is about 11,000 years old, that land. So it's a very rich culture with a lot of diversity. And in this book, I was able to travel across Pakistan to do ethnography and fieldwork, and to meet some fantastic communities from the Buddhist, Jains, Christians, Parsis, Baha'is, Muslims, even a Jewish community in Pakistan. And you hear their voices in the book. So I'm really inspired by these communities. But when I've been talking to them recently, especially in the lockdown, it's been a very challenging period for them, because a lot of these communities are based in rural areas, but they have a lot of poverty, and they're facing multi-dimensional poverty, as the UN has confirmed, indeed, because majority of the Pakistanis live in that situation. They have no access to schools or to food or to supermarkets, etc. So it's been a very difficult situation. And I spoke to the Christians of Swat just yesterday, and they said that they really didn't have any rations for food. So they were worried, where will their food come from next? Because the world is in lockdown, they don't have access. They're not able to do their usual jobs. So it's a very difficult situation.
And of course, it's always the vulnerable and the poor who suffer most when it comes to, tragedies like this, whether it's man-made or whether it just sort of happens. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in the cities. I mean, you're based in Islamabad, but of course you've traveled all over Pakistan. Is there much fear? Is there a coming together? Is there further division? What's happening on the ground?
Yes. So there's a lot of fear because, the media has played this up. It is a genuine disease. People are dying. People have lost sons, brothers, daughters, etc. So there is loss, there is grief. But at the same time, it's also a moment for potential, because there is that moment of isolation where people have drawn to faith. They've begun to see it, as one friend told me in Karachi, it's a Ghar-e Hira moment, which is the mountain of light where the Prophet got, the Quran Sharif for the first time. So it's a very special moment where you can reflect, you can think about the meaning of life and the bigger questions. That's on the positive side. But then on the negative side and the difficult side, the mosques in the cities are open and they are keeping that 3-foot distance. But then in the rural areas, again, you've got mosques that are open again, but people are standing shoulder to shoulder. And if there's funerals or weddings, again, you've got these large communities of people shaking hands, standing together, even, doing the chati, which is chest to chest, hugging and all. And that becomes very difficult in these situations because the doctors are genuinely concerned. There have been 130 doctors who've died from coronavirus in Pakistan. So that's a big concern for them. But as far as people of faith are concerned, they're still turning to their understanding of what faith should be like and how it should be lived.
And it sounds like a very worrying situation, Amineh. In terms of the faith, what resources do people look to, and what helps them when they're thinking about this situation and managing the worry and the concern, the death, the mortality, and of course the vulnerability?
All of these faiths talk about a period of isolation. Again, the Ghar-e Hira moment is a very important concept to understand and to see what benefits. And of course, I'm being a Muslim woman from a very conservative part of that area, from Mardan and Swat. We've been working very hard to bring in reform and to help people understand and become much more aware through education and through courses which have a spiritual side. And some of the courses that I have been able to teach have been, for example, the Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks's book, in Lahore, which is fantastic because sometimes people could misinterpret that, but it's been a wonderful bridge building and again peace building courses. So something like that needs to be done, where you encourage global citizens and help change mindsets. But again, courses online are very useful. Spiritual prayers online. People have been turning, my friends have told me they've turned to, for example, they've seen some of your videos at the Wolf Institute, which is fantastic. They've been very engaged with the Cambridge Muslim College with their videos, with Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad's very good lectures. Then in America, there is Zaytuna College. So they've been sending these videos around on WhatsApp, and that's been very inspiring and encouraging.
So it's this odd situation, isn't it, Amineh, with on the one hand, this isolation that we're all feeling, and at the same time, this connection around the world. Is this something you think will continue when we do return to some kind of normality, or will we kind of just return to type?
Yes, that's a good question. I feel it's been a big, a sort of earth shaker, if you like, or it's jolted us into thinking that we shouldn't continue on the same path. We have a situation for global warming, we've got genocides, we've got the Pope, for example, called it another world war, where there are pockets of the world in real pain. You know, there have been countries who've been where a huge number of people have been affected and migrated because of wars and killing and all. So we should not go back to that situation. And if we look at all these communities in Pakistan, the Buddhists, the Baha'i, Zoroastrian, Parsis, Jewish communities, Muslim communities, etc., all of them have a key message. And the key message is compassion, empathy, and love for humanity. And that's something I want us to take away, that sense of, unity. And that's something we can learn, because there's one very special person I'd like to quote at the end of our conversation, and his name is Shah Abdul Latif Bhai. Now, he's a very special Sufi saint and poet, and he wrote a magnus opus, a beautiful book called the Shah Jo Risalo. Eden, I'd love you to teach that at the Wolf Institute. It's a very fat book, and it's based on many stories, on about 7 stories, and these are called the 7 Queens of Sindh. Now, Shah Abdul Latif Bhai is known as the Shakespeare of Sindh, and his stories are all in the voices of women. So the woman is the protagonist, and through her story, we understand how to reach out to humanity, regardless of faith, regardless of barriers and boundaries. And it's all about, again, compassion, empathy, and universal idea of love for humanity and love for the divine.
Well, I think it's a perfect way to end this conversation, to talk about love, or agape as Christians would call it. Love in terms of the family, in terms of the community, in terms of deep friendship. So why don't you end with giving us one reflection from that collection that you would like viewers to go away with?
Well, there's a beautiful story, Ed, in this Shah Jo Risalo. It's a story of Sassi Pannu. And they're 2 people who are from different faiths, but they end up loving each other and want to get married. But they're not able to, and society and customs and people around them stop them from that union. And the story and the dialogue is constantly it's a remembrance. It's a metaphor for the journey of life that we all go through. But it's a difficult path, because like Saswi, who walks the path and she's separated from Pannu, who stays in Balochistan in the north, in the south, her feet are cut and she's under very difficult circumstances, but she's trying to reach out. She's putting in that effort and struggle and overcoming her own ego. In humility, she reaches out to the Lord and to humanity, and constantly reminds us of this idea of love and compassion. And in fact, Shah Jo Risalo, Shah Latif, had in his hand, in one hand, he had Rumi's Matnavi, which is Rumi's book. And in the other hand, he had the Quran, which is the Abrahamic message of reaching out, of tolerance, of peace, because God is Rahmat al-Alameen. mercy unto all of humanity.
Amineh Hoti, thank you very much.